Good evening and welcome to the Badger Politic. I'm Scott Stearns.
My name is Paul Sickle.
Hey, Paul. Evening to you.
Likewise.
How's it going?
Well, if I can afford a few political comments in between discussing how adorable my daughter is, I think I can help make a decent podcast.
How is parenthood? You're at week 7, I believe you said.
The kid's amazing.
Yeah?
A lot of face making. We're starting to make faces at each other.
That does happen. They make more deliberative movements and less just natural nerve reactions to things. So that's always fun.
That's great stuff.
Yeah,
and it's one of the reasons I care about politics, because I realize that after I'm gone, there will be someone else.
There's a world that has to carry on.
Right.
Once your world comes to a close. So.
Right. That's all being optimistic that we make it through these times.
Well, yeah.
But then again, all people talking politics are worried about that.
I suppose so.
They certainly worry about their children.
Yeah.
Hopefully people worry about multiple generations down the line.
Well, let's hope so.
And this is where we're at.
Yeah.
We still have Donald Trump as president.
We do.
And Scott Walker as governor.
So, yeah, we've been off a couple weeks. I took a trip out to Las Vegas last week.
Cha-ching?
Not necessarily.
A few overdrawn notices coming in now.
No, I think
maxed out on this credit card. Too many cash advances.
I was relatively sensible in my where I was placing my wagers, and I went out with a group of friends, and we stayed downtown and enjoyed the quirky nature of Fremont Street. I did put some money on some local sports teams.
Did you break out the Discover card that you had way?
Do I have a Discover card? Oh, you should have told me.
Oh shit! All right.
So I did put $20 on the Bucks to win the division. It's 18-1 bet. I figured, hey, that's worth the possibility of getting $360 back, right?
I lose everything every time I look at the Pato. So there you go.
Well, yeah, there you go. But speaking of the Bucks,
that's actually not true. I don't go to the Pato. It's fake news, fake Paul news. Speaking of the Bucks,
they went back home or to the old home tonight, to the old Mecca Arena,
the mothership.
Yeah, and it looked like it was
that's a grandmothership, actually.
Right. Well, that's where they won the championship back in the day.
I know. It might be their great grandmothership.
Yeah, that's actually that's a good way to put it.
It wasn't so great tonight.
No, they couldn't pull it out. They lost despite Giannis scoring 28 points. Still couldn't
season low.
Get it done against
28 points.
The Boston Celtics. So, but they still are. They're still doing okay. They got up to a pretty good start.
Their prospects are probably better than the Packers are.
I believe they're like the second tallest team in the league.
Yeah,
from what I'm hearing, they got a lot of length.
Are we a sports podcast nowadays?
We
sports and gambling podcast.
We could just talk about this for a while. It's fine.
I mean, we should do this. I mean, politics is pretty fucking depressing, if you ask me.
We all need distractions.
Right?
So, speaking of distractions, there are new numbers that we can...
new polls! It kind of brings gambling and politics together.
Right,
There we go. I mean, notice we haven't talked about Trump's feuds with Republicans or threats to start wars or who knows what.
Or what's going on with Russia.
I read some article how he's favoring Russia and something else. Whatever. Anyway... So, there's a poll. Merry holidays early to all of you. There are polls out.
So, the PPP poll.
PPP?
Yeah.
That's what my kid does when we try to change her diaper.
Public policy polling.
She doesn't actually do that anymore. Diaper. But, public policy polling. They came out with a full statewide poll.
Yeah. It's it's actually like some very interesting numbers in terms of our governor Scott Walker here in Wisconsin. He is currently not he's
underwater.
He's underwater against the generic Democrat. So Walker's approval is 43%, disapproval of 49%. Matchup in a re-elect against a generic Democrat right now is 43% for Walker, 48% for the Democrat, 8% undecided.
Yeah, I think that's And actually, I think the number I look at a little more closely would be the approval rating.
Yep.
Because I would say that the Democratic opponent, the generic opponent, once you get a name, then there's somebody you can attack.
Right. So you're gonna obviously Walker's gonna have plenty of money behind him, so they're gonna break out all the Oppo research and go after their weaknesses.
But I do think that 43% approval and almost majority disapproval with 8% unsure.
Yeah.
That I think speaks volumes.
Right.
And so I think that the one thing I would point out to be just a little cautious against, offer a little hedge here against really bullish Democrats would be if you look at someone else. So they break it out in the poll. Who did you vote for in the last election? So among those who voted for Trump, unsurprisingly, Walker has a 77 to 17 approval rating. It's actually, a pretty significant number of Trump voters that disapprove.
Yeah.
It's a little not terribly surprising though, because Walker was already a little underwater. He's been underwater really since 2015.
Well, and he did endorse Cruz in the primary, so there's probably some carryover from that,
right?
Amongst Republicans.
Well, there's Trump Republicans who, they have
a level of distrust.
I think we can assume most of them are going to either gravitate back toward Walker or just not vote,
right?
Depending on how it looks. The weird thing is that if it's a close election, they'll gravitate back toward him. If it looks like Walker's a loser, they'll start abandoning ship.
Yeah, they'll stay home, or they'll third party
or whatever. Like some Nazi guy or whatever.
Libertarian.
So among those who voted for Hillary Clinton, it's 9% approve and 83% disapprove. It's a little shocking that 9% would approve. However, the bigger storyline is that Trump voters 17% disapprove. Clinton voters only 9% approve, which I think typical of a governor from the opposite party reelect.
Does that kind of speak to the enthusiasm gap, maybe?
It may, but it also speaks. I think it speaks to the fact that Trump voters probably just don't trust Walker, but they'll probably come home.
Yeah.
So I think that this Walker approval rating might be just deflated a tad.
Right.
When he's at 43% versus 49%. I think it might, I don't think that that's predictive of the next election.
Sure.
It's fair to say that it's a good chance of losing 49% of the vote. But he only needs to get to 50 plus 1. So that gives him some room to work with. The other thing that gives me a little bit of pause, and I should give Democrats reason for pause, is that people who voted for someone else or didn't vote, most of them approve of Walker.
Right, 45% to 39.
Yeah.
16% undecided.
Yeah, that's better than his overall numbers.
So that is reason for concern, because obviously he's going to depend on independents to swing his way if he's going to pull this thing out next year.
Then again, these are people who didn't vote or voted for someone else. So this would be predominantly very low information people or never Trumpers.
Right.
Which would be mostly Republicans. So that is the one thing I'm actually willing to excuse that a little bit.
But it also includes people that would have voted for Green, Green Party, or for or Libertarian.
Yeah, but I think if you look at Libertarian was a lot of never Trumpers.
True.
Those are Republicans who couldn't vote for Trump. They voted for Ron Johnson. That's why Ron Johnson won by.
Well, they voted for Evan McMullen and
right. In review, Johnson won by over 100,000 votes over Feingold.
Right.
And Clinton was defeated by Trump by just 22,000 votes.
Yeah.
And so what we're talking about is, Johnson got almost 1.5 million votes, whereas Trump only got 1 million, just over 1.4 million votes.
Right.
Trump got fewer votes than Mitt Romney had gotten 4 years earlier.
He still pulled it out somehow.
Right, because the Democratic vote was so depressed.
Yep.
So, but I think that's important. If you look at Walker versus the Democratic opponent,
Yeah, that's
it's almost the same as the approval.
It's pretty similar, although you do have so 78% of Donald Trump voters would vote for Walker. 11% of Donald Trump voters would swing Democrat, which is interesting.
So the approval, but a good chunk of those people that disapprove of Trump, or Walker, I'm sorry, who voted for Trump, really more than a third of them are going to hold their nose and vote for Walker.
Yeah.
Clinton voters barely have more support for the Democratic opponent.
Yeah.
And that's probably why it's a shade closer. There.
So it's, of the in the 2016 vote, Hillary Clinton voters, 86% would support the Democratic opponent. 9% of Hillary Clinton voters would vote for Scott Walker today.
Right, and on the approval, it's 83% disapprove.
Right,
and 9% wouldn't. So there's people who don't know if they approve of Walker or whatever, but so there's, I guess, less informed Democrats that would just not vote for Walker.
But there was a certain percentage of Clinton voters that were never Trumpers. People that would not vote third party because they know that it is a winner take all situation.
Well, it doesn't look like they're gravitating toward Walker though on the ballot.
What I'm saying is that
you're going back to someone else now.
Well, yeah, there's that, and then I think the fact that the Hillary Clinton voters, there's 9% of Clinton voters that support Walker, which seems to the average person, I think, probably counterintuitive that you'd have 9% of people.
Well, but it matches his approval rating there.
It does.
Whereas he has 83% approval rating or disapproval rating among Clinton voters.
Yeah.
But 86% of Clinton voters are willing to vote against him.
Yeah.
Which I think is less informed Democratic people, voters. When you look at someone else, I think that's where your never Trumpers come in.
Right.
And so that's
someone else, 44% for Walker, 43% for the Democratic opponent.
So really close.
It is really close, but it swings versus the approval rating. It swings more towards the Democratic opponent.
Yeah.
So
I think that's where we'll lose support once you name a Democratic
once you have an actual body.
Right. Those Gary Johnson voters who lived in Waukesha County or whatever.
Yeah.
They're slightly moderate. Maybe they're moderate. They're usually more moderate on social issues. Maybe vote against.
So just to break down, just to give some background to the PPP poll. So in terms of the demographics of this poll, Democratic response was 32% Democrats, 32% Republicans, and 36% Independents/other.
Yeah.
So a pretty even poll. I think it's probably pretty representative of what you see in Wisconsin.
Who did you vote for last year? 44% Trump, 44% Clinton.
12% someone else.
Didn't know. Right. I think that's about, Wisconsin, Clinton lost, obviously, but I think it was 47-46 or 48-47. It was within a point, so that's pretty close. I think that also there's probably a little bit of buyer's remorse on Trump, and people also not willing to admit that. I still think there's people not willing to admit they were Trump voters. So
yeah,
if anything, there might be a skew toward more people saying they voted for Hillary than actually did.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is an honest poll. You look at.
The gender breakdown is interesting, though. There's the female response 53% to males 47%.
Yeah, typically the voting age population that votes is about 52-48.
So that's pretty close. Yeah,
it's not too far. Racial, I thought, was 87% white, 16% other,
13% other,
13% other. 16% other is the state historical average in presidential years.
So if anything, it's overrepresentative white.
In a non-presidential year, that's about correct.
Yeah, for an off-year election.
And then obviously the age breakdown, only 10% under 30.
Yeah.
Whereas in a presidential year, I think when Obama was reelected, it was something like 15 or 16% of the voters were under 30.
Age 30 to 45, 23%.
Right.
Age 46 to 65, which makes up the plurality, it's 38%, and then older than 65, 28%. So
right.
It seems like that's fairly representative of what you should see in an off-year election.
Right. It's actually a skewed high number for over 65. Although that's changing rapidly because of the baby boomers who are quickly turning 65.
Yep.
Or have been doing so for the last 6 years or so.
Right.
And so it's a public policy polling thing. It was done from October 17th through the 18th, so it was done about a week ago.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of interesting data in here around not only the governor's race, but what's going on with the Foxconn deal. Obviously, with Wisconsin on the hook for $3 billion to go towards Foxconn to build their plant down in Racine.
Foxconn 34% support the idea.
Yep.
Of the deal, the whole deal, that is, and 41% are opposed.
Yep.
And 26% are sure, which sounds like crazy to me because I would think if you live around here, you would have to have an opinion. But you know, if you think about it, outside the Milwaukee media market, it probably hasn't gotten that much coverage.
True.
Inside the Milwaukee media market, there was another poll that Marquette came out with that we also telegraphed that we talk about earlier on Facebook.
Yes.
And that had basically the opposite. There was slightly more support for people said a slight plurality said it wasn't worth the money.
Mm-hmm.
But another plurality said, actually I think a majority said it would help the economy.
Right, but that's two different questions.
Right. But I would also argue it was also regionally biased. I mean, southeast Wisconsin, the Milwaukee metro area, is probably going to be more for the Foxconn deal,
of course,
than almost any other part of the state.
I mean, that only makes sense. I mean,
right.
Obviously, somebody in Oak Creek is going to care more about Foxconn than somebody in Eau Claire.
Right. And I think that as soon as you go north of, say, 7 Mile Road, as we said before,
sure, yeah,
Foxconn support drops precipitously.
Yeah.
But even people in Milwaukee or Waukesha or Washington or Ozaukee counties could benefit from Foxconn.
Yeah.
Whereas, no one in Appleton's going to benefit from that.
Oh, sure.
Or Eau Claire, or Green Bay, or Fond du Lac, really. I mean, Sheboygan, Manitowoc, you name it.
Well, one of the interesting crosstabs here is, so they did pull on the motive of the governor getting this deal through, and 38% think that Walker made the agreement with Foxconn because it was a good long-term deal for the state. 49% think he made the agreement mainly to help him win re-election. So, which, I mean, to me, that makes perfect sense. I mean, you're talking about close to half.
The moment of truth.
Half of the population of the state says he's just doing this for political purposes to get his pledge fulfilled on jobs. Because he did have, when he was elected governor, he had a pledge that he would create 250,000 jobs in the state. Now, he's short of that, but I'm sure any time
he promised that by his re-elect of 2014. So
but he still hasn't met, though.
Right.
2 terms in.
Right.
Now, but obviously the response to that in any debate or in a commercial, what have you, is going to be, well, we just signed this Foxconn deal, which is going to produce all these other jobs above and beyond what I promised back in 2010. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's his obvious response. But it's interesting that half the population of the state thinks that he has an ulterior motive outside of the interests of his own constituents.
And that would be interesting to see the crosstab on that and how it breaks down regionally. I don't think we're going to have
we don't have that level of granularity, but
well, actually, I think it's there. I just think it would take a lot of searching on this. That's why I would recommend your PPP poll online.
We do have this on our Facebook page, so if you go to facebook.com/badgerpolitic, you can find the link to this.
It would also be interesting to hear what people think is wrong with our analysis, or if not, what's wrong with our analysis, what we might have missed.
True.
Because I think there's a lot of data in here.
There's a lot to look at. I'm just going
to say in full disclosure, this is a Democratic polling firm.
But I think historically, they've been one of the more accurate ones.
Yeah.
They have a pretty good track record.
Yeah.
The PPP poll and the Marquette poll, I think, are pretty much they're the gold standard.
No, it's true.
If you look back historically,
they gave some very optimistic answers, but I think around the Walker recall. But by optimistic, they still had Walker ahead.
Yeah.
But I think they were trying to. They do sometimes cook numbers to their clients' benefit a little bit. And I'm trying to be as critical as I can be. On the other hand, they also have Trump at a 40% approval rating here. And only a 52% disapproval
and nationally, he's been around 37. Now, granted, I think that's within the margin of error, but we are a state that did vote for Trump. So,
by half a percentage point.
Right, but we still skewed red.
Right.
So
but they have us more pro-Trump than I think you would expect it to be.
Yeah.
So that's the other side of it. As I was just saying, it was a Democratic-leaning polling firm. They'll give the answers you want to hear. I do think that they come up with a 40 to 52 split on Trump, which is probably one of the more generous splits Trump's going to see in a lot of places.
But he's still underwater. So 52%, more than half the state, disapproves of Trump, according to this poll today. So that's obviously contributing to Walker's issues, is because he did fall in line, even though he did endorse Cruz in the primary last year. Like a lot of Republicans, it's a little bit. They got in line.
Okay, let's put it on the margin side, because I think when we see big disapproval gaps, we forget about the margins.
Mm-hmm.
Because you talk about like the generic ballot. Okay, the generic ballot. You lose 5% of the margin.
Yeah,
that's what so it's a 5% Democratic lead, so 5% margin.
Right. You figure 2.5. Once they have a candidate, it should be like 2.5 points. So it should be pretty even once you have.
So if you take this poll seriously, it's an even race.
Right.
My understanding is they have similar findings in the Baldwin race as well.
Okay.
And so, meanwhile, the Trump thing is 12 points against Trump.
Right.
And nationally, Trump's at 37% instead of 40%. His disapproval's at 57% versus 52% here.
But remind me, Paul, what were we looking at 4 years back when Walker was going to be up against Mary Burke at this stage in the race? I believe Walker was ahead
by about 6 points.
Right. So, reason to be hopeful?
A little bit. Then again, you got a generic Democrat.
Yes, so, you don't have it named.
So, assuming if it's only 5% on the margin that you're going to lose, then we've gone from being 6 points down to even.
Yeah.
So that ought to help.
Still better than the other way around. Still better than 48-43 for Walker.
Right.
At this stage in the race.
And mind you, Burke lost by about 5.6 points. So if we have a 6-point improvement, we have a very narrow win.
Yeah.
Coming up.
Well, we were talking about it earlier tonight about just the fact that combined with the Trump factor, combined with Foxconn, this is Walker's third term he's going for. However, there was the recall election in 2012, so really it feels like his fourth term because it's the fourth time we have to go through a campaign.
So I wonder, does that give him a pass though when running for a third term, or does that make it harder for him?
I think it makes it harder because it just seems like he's been around longer than he actually has.
So then Walker fatigue will become more of an issue.
Right, I think so.
Okay.
Some other interesting data points here in terms of the current support of the Affordable Health Care Act / Obamacare. 44% support, 38% opposed.
And nationally, those numbers are doing better for the ACA.
Yeah, and I think that probably goes to the Walker thing as well, because obviously he's been in opposition.
So against it that people are buying into it. Right.
Congressional action on the Affordable Care Act. in terms of how if the Congress passes a bipartisan bill to fix the problems, 57% support, 33% say repeal it and start over. So that's pretty significant. I think if I'm a Democrat and I'm running for governor against Walker, I think I play this up a good amount.
Absolutely.
There is some other stuff in here as well about the Medicaid expansion.
So I don't know if we have a Democrat with a killer instinct, and I wonder if this is going to prod another Democrat in.
It might. Well, I don't know. I mean,
I've been telegraphing.
I think the healthcare thing is interesting. I mean, the other thing in here is, so, I mean, Walker obviously did not accept the Medicaid expansion when Obama was president. That obviously has been an issue of contention that's been ongoing. They did poll this, and they said, do you support Wisconsin accepting Medicaid expansion funds? 59% support, 21% oppose. I mean, whoever
a higher opposed number,
whoever the Democrat is, has got to get on this and be like, okay, you know,
among men, it's like the same as with women, even better. Actually.
Yeah, I mean, 62% of men are supportive of expanding Medicaid versus 56% of women. I mean, that's actually, I'm surprised by that breakdown. But I mean, if I'm running for governor, and you know, Walker, who claims to be the reformer, I'm one who says, you know, it is your money. So why is your governor not bringing your money back here to the state to pay for health care and support the people of Wisconsin?
What's the Walker gender reelect number? So it's 41 women, 41% reelect, 48% no. Men, 46% reelect. Wow, that's a small gender gap. Yeah. I mean, wow, I think that shows huge vulnerability for Walker.
I think it does too.
I think you run an effective campaign. I really do think that's huge.
I didn't really know what to expect out of the latest poll numbers, but I think there's just...
I think this shows
something to watch.
Kind of what I felt it was, but I wasn't sure because we live in Milwaukee,
right?
And who knows? I mean, we're...
There's some other stuff in here.
I wanted to find the race breakdown. That's
yeah.
Actually, I'm glad you found it. Whites, 47% vote for the Democratic opponent. 45% vote for Walker. Other non-white, basically, because they couldn't get a statistically significant sample for different groups. 58% for the Democratic opponent, 31% for Walker. That's low for the other. I honestly think non-whites will vote against Walker a lot harder than 58-31.
Yeah,
I think it would be closer to 80-20.
That would be quite the swing versus this poll, but
that's been at least 70-30. I really think that understates it. So
okay.
Whereas if he actually is losing among whites by 2 points. Now let's give him the 5 point swing, so he wins whites by 3 points. Yeah, he's a goner.
Wow.
We just need a decent candidate to get rid of him, but we should be able to do it.
Well, yeah.
That's one of the reasons I've been telegraphing Malin Mitchell. I think he'd be perfect because you get the non-whites to vote against him and show up and really vote in force.
And work hard.
Hopefully. Right. I think so. I think maybe because I mean, this 87% of the polls white, that's a little high on the white side.
Yeah.
Versus Wisconsin's historical average.
For sure.
So, like I said, in the presidential election, I think it was 82% were white, not 87. And so, I think a gubernatorial election was close to 87. But, yeah, if you had a candidate that could get folks out, you know...
And still get some passion
from non-white communities, right. Right. You had people who actually could believe in something. And I think Malin might be able to pull that in a way that the other candidates can't.
We shall see.
On the other hand, it's possible that none of the above are the answer. I think this poll is so...
That's always the wild.
I actually think this poll, now that I look at the internal numbers, which is like the first time I've done it is on this podcast.
Yeah.
Now that I look at the internal numbers, I think Walker's really in trouble. And I think this might actually prompt
maybe somebody
else to run.
Yeah. That'll be interesting to see. See what the reaction is in the coming days and weeks.
And it may very well prompt funding to come
to
it too.
Well, not only funding from people here, but maybe outside the state as well. So.
And outside the state, yeah. No, I think the moral story is Walker's in trouble. I think Baldwin will have an uphill race too, just because she's an incumbent. She will be backed by the fact that it is not going to be a Republican year.
And I know she's been raising money. She's got a lot more money than her opponents at this point, from what I saw yesterday.
I think there's also a lot of people here who legitimately admire her.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think
myself included.
I think people that are for Tammy Baldwin are very passionately for
yeah,
her.
I think more so than just a generic Democrat.
Yes,
probably more than Feingold last year.
Perhaps.
Although
that could be.
It's hard to say. Thing to say.
Yeah. Some other bread and butter issues from this poll. So in terms of how people view the quality of the roads.
Yeah, how are things going under Walker?
20% think they've gotten better. 38% say they've gotten worse. 36% about the same. 6% not sure. So
I would definitely be part of the 38. They have gotten worse.
I don't know who this 20% is that thinks that our roads have gotten better. Maybe they don't drive. I don't know. Maybe they don't go anywhere.
They span a lot of roads in the middle of nowhere. I've seen it. Like I have. Like near where my family's from, near Green Bay.
Yeah.
They do have wider, bigger roads. They've got like a 5-lane in each direction freeway just off of Lambeau Fields.
That's the Tommy Thompson legacy. There was a big road building campaign back in the 90s.
But Walker brought it back in parts. Yeah. The weird thing is, the cog that goes from Green Bay to Appleton, which is where most people in that metro region commute to work through, that's still 2 lanes. And they're supposed to be expanding to 3 lanes, but they've been working on that for a long ass time, just like the zoo interchange over here.
Right. Well, that's the thing.
Which has been like those are 2 big ass bottlenecks in the state, which hundreds of thousands of people have to drive through every week.
Yep.
And
that keeps on getting delayed.
It sucks.
Yeah, it keeps on getting delayed because there's no money to fund it.
They suck.
Related to infrastructure, quality of public schools since Walker took office, better or worse? 17% say it's gotten better, and 48% say it's gotten worse. 27% about the same. So,
and actually, the white numbers are more critical than the non-white.
Yeah. I mean, these are the issues that people vote on. What's going on with their schools? What's going on with their roads? What's going on with jobs? I mean, if he's looking at these numbers, he's got to be a wee bit concerned tonight.
What I'm gathering from this, and actually looking at like the small sample, the Marquette poll that only did the 5 counties in the Milwaukee metro area, which is only really a third of the state's population. It's not most of it, even though it's the most urban area. It's that 5-county poll showed much lower numbers of people self-identifying as Republican than is traditionally reflected in the vote.
Yeah,
in that area, and that 5 counties are Racine, Waukesha, Zaki, Washington, and Milwaukee. Obviously, Milwaukee is a Democratic stronghold. Racine County is kind of a swing county, but the city of Racine is very much Democratic stronghold. The outer areas are very much Republican.
Yeah.
The other 3 counties are very extremely Republican.
Yeah.
More than almost any suburban area in the country. But it looks like that might be moderating according to the self-identification out of that area in that Marquette poll. So some of this may be reflecting that the suburban areas are turning a little bit more purple, not quite, I wouldn't say blue, from their red. They're going from, say, 75% Republican down to 70% Republican or something like that.
They're kind of, some of them are rethinking where their alliances are.
At the same time as the rural areas we've seen precipitously going toward the red.
Right.
And they went from, like, roughly 50% Democratic, 50-50, to now being like 60 or more % Republican.
Yeah.
And one thing is these suburban counties, just in the 4 that surround Milwaukee County alone, have probably as much population as there are in the entire 7th and half of the 8th congressional district, the entire northern half of the state.
Sure. But I mean, obviously there's a different story in terms of what's going on in the suburbs versus what's going on in rural communities. I mean, suburban communities, by and large, are very affluent, and the rural communities have obviously been ones that have gone through quite a sea change the last generation or so in terms of what's going on with farming, what's going on with jobs, what's going on with schools, what's going on with the brain drain, all that stuff. So that all plays in, I think, to political behavior when you're talking about what happened in last November. So
no, I think so, but I think that there may be an extension of that.
Yeah,
continuing even into we're seeing a little bit of this in the poll right now.
Yeah,
whereas I think you're going to see the wild counties, if the Democrats have any chance at all, the wild counties are going to continue to be more moderate than they have been historically.
Well, let's hope, because of that they've been some of the reddest counties in the country, in previous elections.
Meanwhile, I think the rural counties will probably not change that much.
Yeah.
I think they're going to stay pretty
stacked to what we observed last year.
Yeah, I think so. All right.
Well, that was a good amount of geeked out, a good amount of a geeked out hour.
Yeah, I don't know if any of it is broadcastable.
I think some. If 538 has a market, I think there's got to be somebody.
If you don't like our program, just think like, hey, we're better than the Packers without Rodgers, right?
That's another pain point with our local sports team. So, all right, everybody.
However, you know what? Just keep in mind, just be happy the Bucks are playing. You got Giannis. So with that, forward.
Go Bucks, forward.